Dear reader, welcome to a journey unlike any other, a journey inward to rediscover a part of yourself that may have been waiting quietly for your attention. Within these pages, you will meet someone extraordinary, your inner child. They are the keeper of your joy, creativity, and wonder, as well as your deepest wounds. Reconnecting with them is not only healing, it's life-changing. Life often teaches us to quiet the voice of our inner child. Society encourages us to grow up, pushing us to bury our authentic selves under layers of responsibility, self-doubt, and fear. But what if the key to your happiness, your healing, and your fulfillment lies in reconnecting with that child within? This book is a guide to that reconnection. Together, we'll explore how to meet your inner child with love, listen to their voice, and nurture them daily. Healing your inner child isn't just about addressing old wounds, it's about embracing play, joy, and curiosity in your everyday life. The purpose of this workbook is simple but profound, to give you the tools and guidance to reconnect with the parts of yourself that long to be seen, heard, and loved. By doing so, you'll unlock a sense of freedom and wholeness that radiates through every aspect of your life. Healing is not a straight line. It's a tender process of rediscovery. You'll revisit memories that shaped you, both beautiful and painful, and learn to approach them with compassion. Most importantly, you'll learn to integrate your inner child into your daily life, to listen to them, to care for them, and to let their voice guide you toward a fuller, more vibrant life. How to get the most out of this book? Set the space. Approach this journey with intention. Dedicate quiet time to engage with the exercises and reflections. Find a cozy spot where you can be uninterrupted. 2. Be honest. This is a space for raw authenticity. Allow yourself to feel deeply, even if it's uncomfortable. Your inner child deserves that honesty. 3. Take your time. There's no rush. Healing unfolds in its own time. Move through the chapters at your own pace, revisiting exercises as needed. 4. Daily connection. Your inner child is not just someone to visit occasionally. They are part of you. Use the tools in this book to create daily rituals, even small ones, that remind you to listen to and care for this part of yourself. 5. Engage creatively. Your inner child communicates through play, color, and creativity. Use the blank spaces in this workbook to doodle, write freely, or express emotions however you feel called. 6. Celebrate progress. Acknowledge every step forward, no matter how small. Growth is worth celebrating, and your inner child will feel that love and encouragement. Above all, approach this journey with love. Love for your past self, love for who you are now, and love for the person you're becoming. Healing is not about perfection. It's about integration. It's about letting every piece of you take its rightful place in the tapestry of your life. I'm honored to walk beside you on this path. You are not alone. As you turn these pages, know that each word is written with care and intention, and each exercise is designed to bring you closer to the vibrant, radiant person you already are. Your inner child has been waiting for this moment. Let's take this first step together. With love and encouragement, Kathleen. What is the inner child? When I first heard the term inner child, I wasn't sure what to make of it. Was it just a metaphor? A playful way to describe nostalgia? Or was it something deeper, something real? As I began my journey to understand it, I realized the inner child is not just a concept. It's a living, breathing part of us, quietly influencing how we feel, think, and act every day. Your inner child is the part of you that carries the memories, emotions, and experiences of your younger self. It's the wide-eyed, curious, and playful version of you, the one who found joy in the smallest things, like chasing fireflies or drawing pictures that didn't have to make sense. But it's also the part of you that felt sadness, fear, or hurt when the world wasn't as kind as it should have been. This part of us doesn't disappear when we grow up. Instead, it becomes a part of our subconscious, holding on to both the light and the shadows of our childhood. Think about it. The moments that shaped us most, whether they were filled with love or pain, don't just vanish as we age. They live within us, influencing how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we navigate the world. For some of us, our inner child might feel neglected or even silenced. Maybe we were taught to be strong, to hide our tears, or to suppress our feelings. Or Maybe we grew up in an environment where our needs weren't fully met. Those unmet needs can leave a mark, creating patterns of behavior or emotions we carry into adulthood. Patterns we often don't even realize stem from that younger version of ourselves. Reconnecting with your inner child means honoring those parts of you that may have been forgotten or ignored. It's about giving space to the laughter and playfulness you once knew, as well as offering comfort and healing to the parts of you that felt scared or alone. Here's the beautiful part. When we begin to nurture our inner child, we unlock parts of ourselves we didn't even realize were missing. We feel more alive, more authentic, and more whole. We start to understand why certain things trigger us, why we have certain fears, or why we crave certain types of connection. And as we do this work, we find that our inner child isn't just a source of healing, it's a wellspring of joy, creativity, and love. The inner child isn't a stranger. They're you. They've been with you all along, waiting patiently for you to remember them. And when you do, you'll discover that the connection you've been seeking, whether it's with yourself or with the world around you, begins right here. Signs of a disconnected inner child. For the longest time, I didn't even realize my inner child was disconnected. I thought I was just being an adult, handling responsibilities, staying serious, and avoiding anything that felt too emotional. But there were little signs, cracks in the surface of my life that told a different story. Looking back, those signs weren't little at all. They were big, flashing signals that I had lost touch with a core part of myself. When your inner child is disconnected, it often shows up in ways you might not immediately recognize. For me, it was the constant feeling of being stuck, emotionally, creatively, even in my relationships. There was this low hum of dissatisfaction, like something was missing, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Here are some signs that I've learned to watch for, both in myself and in others, that might mean your inner child is crying out for attention. 1. Difficulty experiencing joy. Have you ever found it hard to just let go and have fun? Maybe you feel silly dancing, playing a game, or doing something childish. For me, joy often felt fleeting or like something I had to earn. The truth is, when we're disconnected from our inner child, we lose that natural ability to embrace joy and play without overthinking it. 2. Perfectionism and overworking. I used to think my perfectionism was a strength, but now I see it for what it really was, a way to protect myself from feeling vulnerable. A disconnected inner child often means you're trying to prove your worth through achievements, avoiding any risk of failure or rejection. 3. Emotional triggers. Certain situations would trigger intense emotions in me, and I couldn't figure out why. Sometimes a small criticism would sting like a deep wound, or I'd overreact to feeling ignored. Often, these reactions stem from unresolved wounds in our inner child. 4. Difficulty trusting others. If you've been hurt as a child, it can manifest as walls in adulthood. I realized I struggled to let people in fully, always bracing myself for disappointment. A disconnected inner child might feel abandoned or unsafe, making it hard to trust. 5. Feeling chronically unfulfilled. There were times I achieved my goals but still felt empty. It was as if nothing was ever enough. This is a sign that your inner child's emotional needs, like love, safety, or validation, weren't fully met in the past and are still longing to be addressed. 6. Ignoring your own needs. Do you push through exhaustion? Forget to rest or care for yourself? I used to think self-care was selfish until I realized that neglecting my needs was a reflection of how my inner child felt, unseen and unheard. 7. Fear of vulnerability. Letting people see the real me felt terrifying. I'd keep parts of myself hidden, afraid of judgment. This was my inner child saying, I've been hurt before. I'm not ready to be open again. 8. Over-reliance on external validation. I caught myself seeking approval in almost everything I did, whether from work, friends, or social media. When you're disconnected from your inner child, it's easy to look outward for validation instead of knowing you're already enough. Number 9. Emotional numbness. There were times when I felt disconnected from my own emotions, like I was just going through the motions of life. This numbness can be a defense mechanism, a way of protecting your inner child from pain. 10. Struggling with boundaries. Saying no was hard for me. I'd often put others' needs above my own, fearing rejection or conflict. This lack of boundaries came from a part of me that learned, long ago, to please others to feel safe or loved. Recognizing these signs was like peeling back layers of my own story. They weren't flaws or failures. They were clues, guiding me toward the parts of myself I had neglected. If any of this resonates with you, take heart. These signs aren't permanent, and they're not a reflection of who you are. They're simply messages from your inner child, asking you to reconnect. That's where the healing begins. By noticing these signs, you've already taken the first step toward listening to that quiet voice inside you. And trust me, they're so ready to be heard. This concludes the first section of the course. Feel free to pause, take a moment for yourself, and reflect on what has been covered here. In this playlist on YouTube, I will dive deeper into each of these points and provide a downloadable workbook to help you focus on these specific areas. For now, ensure you've downloaded the workbook associated with this course, and go to the end where you'll find exercises and questions designed to help you reflect on this moment. Once you're ready, return to this video to continue the lessons. Alternatively, you can progress through the course until the end, absorbing everything, and then revisit each section at your own pace. Take a moment with some healing music before we move on. The role of childhood experiences in adult life. I never fully understood just how much my childhood shaped who I am today until I started digging into my inner child work. The more I looked back, the more I realized how much of my adult life was being guided, almost unconsciously, by the experiences I had as a child. It was like connecting dots between my past and present, and the picture it created was both eye-opening and deeply personal. Our childhood experiences lay the foundation for so much of what we believe about ourselves, the world, and the people around us. Think about it. When we're kids, we don't have the tools to make sense of everything that happens to us. Instead, we absorb what we see, hear, and feel, and those early moments become the rules we live by as adults. If you grew up in an environment filled with love, safety, and encouragement, those experiences probably gave you a sense of security and self-worth. But if, like many of us, your childhood had its share of challenges, maybe criticism, neglect, or unpredictability, those moments likely left marks too. I didn't realize it at the time, but so much of what I struggled with as an adult was rooted in my early years. For example, I grew up feeling like I always had to earn love by being good or achieving something. That belief followed me into adulthood, making me feel like my worth was tied to what I could do for others, or how successful I appeared. It's exhausting living like that. On the flip side, childhood can also leave us with fears and insecurities that shape our relationships. If you felt abandoned or rejected as a child, you might carry that fear into your adult relationships, always bracing for the worst. I know I did. It wasn't until I recognized that pattern that I realized I wasn't protecting myself. I was recreating old wounds, over and over. But childhood doesn't just shape how we see ourselves or others. It also influences how we handle emotions. If you were told to stop crying or toughen up, you might struggle with expressing emotions as an adult, burying them deep instead. I was guilty of this for years. I thought being strong meant hiding my feelings, but really, it just left me feeling disconnected from myself. Here's the thing. Our childhoods don't have to define us forever. While they play a powerful role in shaping our adult lives, they're not the whole story. Once we become aware of the patterns and beliefs we picked up, we gain the power to rewrite them. For me, that meant going back to the root of where those beliefs began. I had to face memories I had tucked away, ask myself how they shaped my current behaviors, and, most importantly, give myself the compassion and love I didn't always receive back then. The truth is, your childhood experiences are like the seeds of a garden. Some grew into beautiful flowers, while others might have sprouted weeds. But as adults, we get to tend that garden. We get to pull out what no longer serves us and plant new seeds of healing, growth, and love. Our inner child is the keeper of those childhood experiences. By reconnecting with them, we can begin to untangle the past's hold on our present and create a future that feels freer, lighter, and more authentic. It's not about erasing the past. It's about understanding it, learning from it, and giving ourselves the care we needed all along. That's the work. And while it's not always easy, I can tell you from experience, it's worth it. Every step forward brings you closer to the version of yourself you were always meant to be. This concludes Chapter 1, Understanding the Inner Child. I hope that you have found some insight and value from this section. To close, I want to give you a reflective exercise to do. Grab the workbook or a notebook. Make sure that you are focused and ready to pull back childhood memories. Pause the course until you are ready. When prepared, we will continue. Take a moment. Reflective exercise. Write about a joyful and a challenging childhood memory. I want to share something deeply personal with you, a moment of joy from my childhood and a moment of challenge. Doing this kind of reflective exercise has been one of the most powerful ways for me to connect with my inner child. I believe it will be just as powerful for you. My joyful memory. One of my favorite childhood memories was the summer afternoons I spent in my grandmother's garden. I can still see myself sitting cross-legged on the grass, my hands stained with the juice of ripe blackberries we had just picked together. My grandmother had this way of making me feel like the most important person in the world. She'd listen to my endless stories and laugh like I was the funniest person she'd ever met. The emotion tied to this memory? Pure, unfiltered joy. I felt safe, loved, and free. There was no pressure, no judgment, just me, the garden, and my grandmother's warmth. That memory reminds me that joy is often found in the simplest moments of connection. My challenging memory. On the flip side, a challenging memory I've carried with me is the time I got scolded by my teacher in front of the entire class for something I didn't even do. I was only 7, and I remember feeling so confused and hurt because I didn't know how to defend myself. Everyone was staring at me, and I felt like I wanted to disappear. The emotion tied to this? Shame. Deep and overwhelming. I also felt powerless and unworthy, like my voice didn't matter. That experience stayed with me for years, feeding a fear of speaking up or standing my ground, even as an adult. Your turn. Now it's your turn. I want you to take a moment to reflect on 2 memories of your own, a joyful one and a challenging one. Write them down just as I've shared mine. Be as detailed as you can. Picture the sights, sounds, smells, and emotions of those moments. Once you've written them down, take a closer look at the emotions tied to each memory. What did your joyful memory teach you about feeling safe or loved? What did your challenging memory teach you about fear or vulnerability? You may notice patterns. Maybe the joyful memory reflects what you still long for in your adult life, or perhaps the challenging memory holds the root of a belief that still holds you back. Why this matters. This exercise isn't about dwelling on the past, it's about understanding it. Your inner child holds on to these moments, both the joyful and the painful. By acknowledging them, you're letting your inner child know, I see you, I hear you. And that's the first step toward healing and reconnecting. Take your time with this exercise. Be gentle with yourself. And if emotions come up, let them flow. This is your chance to give yourself the love and compassion you might not have received in those challenging moments, and to celebrate the joy that still lives within you. Chapter 2. Recognizing your inner child's voice. The voice of your inner child is always there, whispering beneath the surface. But in the chaos of adult life, it's easy to miss. You might hear it in moments of hesitation, fear, or excitement. Those fleeting emotions that seem to bubble up from nowhere. This chapter is about learning to recognize that voice, understanding its unique tone, and uncovering the stories it carries. Your inner child speaks through emotions, memories, and even the patterns you see in your relationships and behaviors. Sometimes it's a voice of longing or pain, seeking the love and attention it once craved. Other times it's a voice of joy and curiosity, reminding you of the wonder and playfulness that still live within you. As we dive into this chapter, I'll guide you through the process of tuning in and listening. Together, we'll explore how your inner child communicates and what it's trying to tell you. By the end, you'll begin to hear that voice more clearly, opening the door to a deeper connection with the part of you that holds so much wisdom, creativity, and love. How the inner child speaks to you. I didn't always recognize the voice of my inner child. In fact, for years, I didn't even know it existed. I thought the moments of intense emotion or the nagging whispers of self-doubt were just me being too sensitive or overthinking. But the truth is, those moments were my inner child trying to reach me, trying to tell me something I had ignored for far too long. Your inner child doesn't always speak in words. It speaks through emotions, reactions, and even physical sensations. Have you ever felt a sudden pang of fear, even though you knew there was no real danger? Or maybe you've experienced a wave of sadness you couldn't explain, or an unexpected burst of joy that lit you up inside. That's your inner child. For me, my inner child often spoke through discomfort. I'd feel anxious in situations where I had to set boundaries or speak up for myself. It wasn't until I sat with those feelings that I realized they stemmed from a younger version of me, a version that felt unheard and unimportant in childhood. Every time I avoided conflict or stayed silent, I was abandoning that child all over again. Your inner child might also speak through memories. Sometimes, when I'm going about my day, a vivid memory from childhood will pop into my head, seemingly out of nowhere. It could be a happy moment, like playing hide and seek with my cousins, or a painful one, like being scolded for crying. These memories aren't random. They're your inner child's way of saying, this still matters. I need you to see this. Another way your inner child speaks is through joy and creativity. Have you ever felt a sudden urge to dance, sing, or create something, even if it seemed silly or impractical? That's your inner child inviting you to play, to let go of the seriousness of adult life and reconnect with the freedom and wonder you felt as a kid. For example, I recently bought a set of watercolor paints. Not because I'm an artist, but because I remembered how much I loved painting as a child. The first time I sat down to paint, I felt a mix of joy and vulnerability. It was like my inner child was peeking out, curious but cautious, wondering if it was safe to come forward. Your inner child also speaks through the patterns in your relationship and behaviors. If you notice that you're drawn to certain types of people, or that you react strongly to specific situations, there's often a childhood story behind it. For me, I realized I struggled with trusting others because my inner child was still guarding herself against the betrayals she experienced when she was younger. The key to hearing your inner child is to slow down and pay attention. When you feel a strong emotion or sense a pattern in your life, pause and ask yourself, what's this really about? Is there a part of me that's trying to be heard right now? Your inner child doesn't demand perfection. It just wants your presence. It wants to know that you're listening, that you care, and that you're willing to create a safe space for it to express itself. When you begin to tune in, you'll find that your inner child has so much to teach you about your past, your present, and the person you're becoming. Listening to my inner child has been one of the most healing and transformative practices of my life. It's not always easy, and sometimes it brings up emotions I'd rather avoid. But every time I acknowledge that voice, I feel a little more whole, a little more connected to the person I was always meant to be. And I promise, if you're willing to listen, your inner child will guide you back to the parts of yourself you thought you'd lost. This concludes the first part of this module. Take a deep breath, focus, and take a few moments to reflect on what was discussed. In the workbook, there are questions you can use to start listening to your inner child. When you are ready, we will jump into the second part of this module, which will help you learn the difference between the inner critic and the inner child. Take a moment before continuing. Differentiating between inner critic and inner child. For the longest time, I confused the voice of my inner child with the voice of my inner critic. They can feel so intertwined, and when you're not used to tuning in, it's easy to mistake one for the other. But the truth is, they're two very different parts of us, and understanding the difference is essential for healing. The inner critic is harsh and judgmental. It's that voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, smart enough, or lovable enough. It's the part of you that magnifies your mistakes, plays on your insecurities, and holds you to impossibly high standards. The inner critic's language is sharp and demanding. It thrives on fear, shame, and self-doubt. Your inner child, on the other hand, isn't here to judge you. It's tender and vulnerable. It speaks from a place of emotions, fear, joy, sadness, or longing. The inner child wants to be seen, heard, and comforted, not criticized. Its voice often reflects the needs and experiences you had as a child, whether those needs were met or left unfulfilled. I remember a time when I was trying to write something creative, and nothing seemed good enough. My inner critic was loud. This is terrible. Why are you even bothering? You'll never be as good as you want to be. I felt defeated, like I wanted to give up. But when I paused and asked myself what was really going on, I realized my inner child was also speaking, though in a much quieter voice. Beneath the harshness of the critic was a deeper feeling, fear. My inner child wasn't telling me I wasn't good enough. She was scared of being judged, of not being perfect, of failing, and feeling rejected. Once I understood that, I could shift my energy. Instead of feeding into the criticism, I could show compassion to the scared little girl inside of me who just wanted reassurance and safety. This distinction is key. The inner critic often disguises itself as a protector, claiming it's keeping you safe by pushing you to do better or avoid failure. But the inner child speaks to your unmet needs. When you hear that critical voice, try asking yourself, what is my inner child feeling right now? What does it need from me? For example, if you're berating yourself for a mistake, your inner child might actually be feeling ashamed and looking for comfort, not punishment. Or if you're hesitating to take a risk, your inner child might be afraid of rejection and needing reassurance that you'll be okay no matter what happens. Learning to differentiate between the two is a practice. When you hear that inner voice, stop and reflect. Does this voice sound harsh or gentle? The critic is harsh while the child is tender. Is this voice focusing on judgment or emotion? The critic is about judgment. The child is about feelings. What is this voice asking of me? The critic demands perfection. The child asks for understanding. Over time, I've learned that the inner critic is often loudest when my inner child feels most vulnerable. The critic steps in like an overbearing parent, trying to protect me from pain in all the wrong ways. But when I tune into my inner child instead, I find that what I really need is compassion, not criticism. When you can recognize the difference between these voices, you begin to reclaim your power. You can silence the inner critic by choosing to nurture your inner child instead. And in doing so, you create space for healing, growth, and self-love. It's a process, but each step brings you closer to the peace and wholeness you deserve. Affirmations to reassure and connect with your inner child. 1. You are safe and I am here to protect you. 2. Your feelings are valid and I honor them. 3. You are loved exactly as you are. 4. You are worthy of happiness and joy. 5. It's okay to make mistakes. You are still enough. 6. You are not alone. I will always be here for you. 7. You deserve kindness, starting with my own. 8. You are brave, even when things feel scary. 9. I see you, and I hear you. 10. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. 11. Your dreams and desires matter to me. 12. I will nurture you with patience and understanding. It's okay to play, laugh, and explore freely. 14. You are more than enough, just as you are. 15. I forgive you for the things you think you did wrong. 16. You are allowed to rest and take up space. 17. I will protect you from harm and keep you safe. 18. Your voice matters. I want to hear what you have to say. 19. You are resilient and capable of overcoming anything. 20. You are a gift to the world, and your presence matters. You can repeat these affirmations daily, write them in a journal, or speak them aloud when you're feeling disconnected. The goal is to let your inner child feel seen, heard, and cherished, because they deserve nothing less. This concludes this module. Before moving on, take a few moments of reflection. Go through the workbook and complete the exercises within. When you are ready, we will move on to the next chapter, which will begin the process of healing scars and wounds from the past. Chapter 3, Healing Wounds from the Past. As we journey deeper into reconnecting with our inner child, we arrive at one of the most profound and transformative steps, healing the wounds from our past. This chapter invites you to step into a space of courage and compassion as we gently explore the pain that may still linger from childhood. For many of us, the experiences that shaped us, the disappointments, betrayals, unmet needs, or even moments of profound loss, didn't just disappear as we grew older. They became part of the stories we carry, quietly influencing our beliefs, behaviors, and relationships in adulthood. These wounds may show up as self-doubt, fear of vulnerability, difficulty setting boundaries, or a persistent feeling of not enough. But here's the truth. While we cannot rewrite the past, we can rewrite the way it lives inside us. Healing isn't about erasing the scars or pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about embracing the younger version of ourselves who endured those moments. It's about showing up for that child in the way they always needed but may not have received. In this chapter, we'll explore tools and exercises to help you gently revisit those moments, not to dwell on them, but to understand them with compassion. Together, we'll work to release the shame, guilt, and fear that may still bind you and replace those feelings with love, acceptance, and empowerment. Healing isn't linear, and it isn't something to rush. So as you move through this chapter, I invite you to take your time. Be patient with yourself. Trust that every small step you take toward healing your inner child is a step toward reclaiming your wholeness and peace. This process can be emotional, but it can also be deeply freeing. And you are not alone. I'm right here, guiding you every step of the way. Let's begin this important work together. You're ready for this. Your inner child is ready for this. Acknowledging emotional wounds. Acknowledging emotional wounds isn't easy. I know because I avoided it for so long. I thought if I ignored the pain, buried it deep enough, it would eventually disappear. But it doesn't work that way. Emotional wounds have a way of surfacing, whether through patterns of self-doubt, fear of intimacy, or even in the moments we lash out at someone we love. For me, it started with admitting to myself that these wounds existed, that there were moments in my past, words spoken, needs unmet, experiences endured, that left scars I didn't want to look at. It wasn't about blaming anyone or feeling like a victim. It was about recognizing that those moments left a mark, and that mark deserves attention, not avoidance. Maybe you can relate. Maybe there's a part of you that feels unworthy of love or a fear of rejection that creeps in when you least expect it. Those feelings didn't come out of nowhere. They're often rooted in the emotional wounds we carry from childhood, the times we felt abandoned, unseen, criticized, or misunderstood. Acknowledging these wounds doesn't mean you're weak. It's an act of incredible bravery. It's saying, I see you, and I'm ready to heal. It's about letting your inner child know they don't have to carry this weight alone anymore. I remember the first time I allowed myself to fully acknowledge one of my own wounds. I was journaling, and a memory surfaced, one I hadn't thought about in years. It was a moment when I felt completely invisible, like my feelings didn't matter. As I sat with it, the emotions came rushing back, the sadness, the loneliness, the confusion. But instead of pushing them away, I allowed myself to feel them. It was painful, but it was also freeing. For the first time, I was able to tell that younger version of me, I'm so sorry you went through that. It wasn't fair, and it wasn't your fault. In that moment, I began to realize that healing starts with acknowledgement, with giving ourselves permission to feel and process the emotions we've been holding onto for so long. If this feels overwhelming, know that it's okay to take small steps. You don't have to dive into the deepest wounds all at once. Start by simply noticing. Ask yourself, what moments from my childhood still bring up strong emotions? Are there patterns in my relationships or behaviors that might stem from unresolved pain? What does my inner child need to feel seen and heard right now? As you explore these questions, try to approach yourself with kindness. You are not broken. You are human. Acknowledging your emotional wounds isn't about reliving the pain. It's about bringing it into the light so it no longer holds power over you. Remember, healing is a process. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about learning to love yourself through every step of the journey. The simple act of acknowledging your wounds is a sign of deep strength, and it's the first step toward freedom and peace. You've already made it this far. You're ready to keep going. This concludes this part of the module. Take a few minutes to relax, reflect, and work on the workbook provided. Answer the questions in the back of the workbook to help you better focus on dealing with old wounds. When you are ready, we will continue with the next part of the module, which is forgiveness. Take a few moments before continuing. The power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is something I once thought was a gift I would give to someone else, not something I needed for myself. For years, I carried around grudges, bitterness, and pain, thinking that holding on to those feelings would somehow protect me. I thought if I forgave, it would mean I was letting someone off the hook for hurting me. But I've learned that forgiveness is never about the other person. It's about me. When I started exploring the power of forgiveness, I realized that I was holding on to so much weight. The people who hurt me, the moments of injustice, the times I felt abandoned or betrayed, they were taking up so much emotional space in my heart. And as I clung to that anger, that resentment, I was also holding myself captive. Forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions or pretending they didn't hurt you. It's not about allowing bad behavior to go unchecked. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of those emotions, letting go of the hold they have over you, and allowing yourself to heal. I had to understand that forgiving wasn't for them. It was for me. I remember a time when I felt incredibly wronged by someone I trusted. The pain and betrayal were so deep, and it felt impossible to forgive. But as I started to dig into my own healing journey, I realized that my inability to forgive was keeping me stuck in a cycle of pain. I was holding on to the past, and by doing that, I was allowing it to continue controlling my present. Forgiveness, I learned, is a form of self-compassion. It's about letting go of the need to be right, to feel justified in my anger. It's about understanding that holding on to grudges only prolongs my suffering. The other person may never apologize, may never change, but I can choose to release the hold their actions have on me. I know it's not easy. I know that forgiveness can feel like a monumental task, especially when the hurt runs deep. But as I worked through this process, I began to feel lighter. I started to feel a sense of peace that I hadn't experienced in years. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about releasing the emotional weight and choosing to move forward. For me, forgiving wasn't a single moment. It was a process. It started with acknowledging my pain, recognizing the harm that had been done, and then making the choice to let go of the grip it had on me. Sometimes it was a daily choice. Other times I had to forgive in pieces, letting go of anger bit by bit. But each time I chose forgiveness, I felt a little more free. Forgiveness also isn't always about the other person. Sometimes the hardest forgiveness to offer is to ourselves. I had to forgive myself for the ways I had allowed my pain to shape my actions, for the times I had held on to resentment instead of choosing healing. When I forgave myself, I allowed space for growth and transformation. If forgiveness feels impossible to you right now, that's okay. You don't have to rush it. But understand that forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook. It's about releasing the hold that the past has on you, about reclaiming your peace. You are not weak for needing time to forgive, but you are incredibly strong for considering it. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to forget the pain or the lessons learned, but it does mean you get to choose to let go of its power over you. And in that choice, you reclaim your inner peace. And that, I've come to realize, is the most powerful thing of all. Letter writing exercise. Write a letter to your younger self. Take a moment to find a quiet space where you can connect with your heart and your emotions. This exercise is about offering love, compassion, and understanding to the younger version of you who experienced pain, whether that pain came from a particular event, a relationship, or a deep emotional wound. Write a letter to your younger self, addressing the event that caused pain. This is a chance to speak from the place of wisdom and compassion you have now, offering comfort and reassurance to the child you once were. Don't rush. Take your time. Be kind, gentle, and honest. Here's a guide to help you get started. Dear your name, I know you're hurting right now, and I want you to know that I see you. I see how much pain you're in, how the weight of the world feels like it's too much to carry. I know you feel lost, alone, and maybe even like no one understands what you're going through. But I'm here now, and I want to tell you that it's okay to feel the way you do. You don't have to pretend to be okay. It's okay to cry, to be scared, and to feel uncertain. What happened was unfair, and it hurt you deeply. You didn't deserve it. But I want you to know that it wasn't your fault. You were doing the best you could with what you had. You were brave in ways you don't even realize yet. And I want you to be gentle with yourself. You didn't know what to do, but that's okay. You're not broken. You're just a child, and sometimes things happen that are beyond our control. That's not your fault, and you did nothing wrong. Right now, I know it feels like the pain will never end, like the hurt is something you'll always carry. But trust me when I say that it will get better. With time, you will heal. Your heart is strong, and the love and compassion you have for others will eventually turn inward. You will learn to forgive, not just others, but yourself too, and you will find peace. I want you to know that you are enough. Always have been, always will be. You are worthy of love, and I will make sure that you feel that love more and more as we go through this journey together. You are not defined by this moment. You are not defined by the pain you feel now. You are so much more than that. It's take a deep breath and let the weight of this moment go, knowing that it is okay to feel hurt and it is okay to heal at your own pace. I will always be here for you. You're not alone anymore. With all my love, remember, this letter is for you. There are no right or wrong words. It's about offering yourself the comfort and reassurance that you might not have received back then. This concludes this section. In the next section, we will work on visualization, meeting and embracing your inner child. Until then, take the time to work on your letter and the other lessons discussed so far in this course. See you soon, my lovely souls. Visualization, meeting and embracing your inner child. Find a quiet space where you can relax and feel comfortable. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and allow your body to settle into a state of calm. Let go of any tension you might be holding in your shoulders, your neck, or your jaw. With each breath, you feel yourself becoming more grounded and present in the moment. Now, imagine yourself standing in a peaceful place, somewhere that feels safe and comforting to you. It might be a quiet meadow, a peaceful beach, or a cozy room. Wherever it is, know that this space is perfect for you. It's a space where you can connect with your younger self, the child inside you who is waiting to be seen, loved, and heard. As you stand in this safe, peaceful space, you notice a figure ahead of you. It's a child, a version of you, perhaps around the age you need most right now. Look at this child. Notice their appearance, their eyes, their smile, the way they stand. What do they look like? What emotions do you feel as you gaze at them? Take a few steps closer to this younger version of yourself. What do you feel when you are near them? Are there any words or feelings you want to share with this child? Know that this version of you is waiting for your love and compassion. They've been longing for the reassurance, the safety, and the acceptance that only you can give them now. As you reach the child, kneel down so that you are at their eye level. Gently offer them a warm, loving embrace. Feel the connection between you and this precious child, knowing that this moment is healing both of you. Hold them for as long as you need to, offering comfort, understanding, and unconditional love. Let them know that they are safe, that they are loved, and that they are not alone. Whisper to your inner child, offering words of comfort and healing. You might say things like, "You are safe now. I'm here for you. You are so loved and so worthy. It's okay to feel everything you're feeling. I'll protect you, and I'll never leave you." Allow yourself to feel the warmth and peace that comes from this embrace. Let the love and care you offer your inner child flow through you, healing wounds and nurturing the parts of you that have been waiting for this moment of connection. As you pull away from the embrace, look into your inner child's eyes and smile. Know that this child is always a part of you, always waiting to be seen, heard, and loved. As you take a few steps back, feel the peace in your heart, knowing that this bond between you and your inner child is strong, and that you can return to this place of connection whenever you need to. Take one more deep breath, slowly bringing yourself back to the present moment. When you're ready, open your eyes, feeling the love and compassion you've given your inner child still with you. Carry that energy with you throughout your day, knowing that you've nurtured and healed a part of yourself that is always with you. This concludes this module. Take a few moments to reflect on everything you have learned and experienced so far. In the next module, we are going to explore how we can cultivate joy and play back into our lives. Take the next few minutes and listen to this audio. Allow it to fill you and get you ready for play. Until then, all my love. Chapter 4: Cultivating Joy and Play. In this chapter, we are going to explore one of the most healing and powerful aspects of reconnecting with your inner child, the ability to embrace joy and play. As adults, we often get caught up in the demands of life, work, responsibilities, expectations, and forget how important it is to experience the simple pleasures that once brought us so much happiness as children. When was the last time you truly laughed just for the fun of it? Or took a moment to play without worrying about the consequences or judgments of others? Cultivating joy and play is not just about having fun. It's a powerful tool for healing and reconnecting with the part of you that knows how to be fully present in the moment. It's about letting go of the stress and the seriousness of adult life and rediscovering the freedom to simply be. In this chapter, we'll explore how you can invite more playfulness into your life, how to nurture joy in small, everyday moments, and how you can create space for the carefree energy of your inner child to surface. We'll dive into the benefits of play, not just for your emotional well-being, but for your overall health, body, mind, and soul. You'll discover that joy doesn't have to be earned or reserved for special occasions. It can be found in everyday moments when you let go of expectations and allow yourself to simply enjoy the experience of being alive. The inner child within you is always ready to be called upon to remind you of this truth. So let's step into this chapter with an open heart and a playful spirit. Together, we will rediscover the art of joy and play and explore how embracing these qualities can bring healing, freedom, and a renewed sense of connection to your inner child. Reintroducing playfulness into your life. I'll be honest. There was a time in my life when I forgot how to play. Life had become so serious, filled with obligations, expectations, and the constant need to get things done. Play was something I left behind, thinking it wasn't important anymore, something only children did. But what I've come to realize is that play isn't just for kids. It's a vital part of being human, a deep, soulful need that we tend to ignore as we grow older. And the truth is, when I stopped allowing myself to play, I also stopped allowing myself to feel fully alive. Playfulness isn't just about games or toys. It's about reconnecting with that spark of joy, that carefree energy that reminds us that life is meant to be lived in the moment. It's about letting go of the constant drive to achieve, to perform, to do everything perfectly, and instead, embracing the joy of simply being. I had to remind myself that play can look different at any age. It doesn't have to be a big, dramatic event. It can be something as simple as dancing around your living room to your favorite song or laughing uncontrollably with a friend over something silly. Play can be anything that brings lightness, creativity, and fun back into your life. For me, reintroducing playfulness began with small, intentional acts. At first, it felt awkward, like I was forcing something that didn't belong. I had to give myself permission to be silly, to let go of control, and to embrace the joy of the moment without worrying about how I looked or what others thought. I'd find little pockets of time throughout my day where I could just be. Whether it was taking a spontaneous walk, coloring in a coloring book, or playing a silly game with a friend, I started to create space for play. At first, it felt strange. I was so used to moving from task to task, crossing things off a never-ending list. But as I gave myself permission to enjoy these moments of play, I noticed something incredible happening. I began to feel lighter, more connected to myself, and more energized. Play was healing me in ways I hadn't anticipated. It was like a breath of fresh air for my soul. When I reconnected with my inner child, I realized how much play had shaped who I was as a person. It wasn't just about laughter or fun. It was about creativity, curiosity, and the freedom to express myself without judgment. The more I allowed myself to be playful, the more I reconnected with the parts of me that had been buried under the weight of adult responsibilities. I remembered how it felt to be spontaneous, to laugh without reason, and to embrace the unexpected with open arms. If you feel like you've forgotten how to play, I want to reassure you that it's never too late to rediscover it. Start small. Take 5 minutes to do something that feels fun to you, whether it's jumping on a trampoline, doodling, or just being goofy with a loved one. Notice how it makes you feel. Notice the lightness, the joy, the release of tension. Reintroducing playfulness into your life is a gift to yourself. It's a reminder that life is meant to be experienced with joy, with wonder, and with the willingness to let go. As we reconnect with our inner child, we open ourselves to a world of possibilities, creativity, and most importantly, fun. Playfulness doesn't make us childish. It makes us human. So let's play. Let's embrace the joy that comes with it and allow it to bring us back to life. Dealing with negative people, situations, and limiting beliefs can be challenging when you're trying to reconnect with your inner child and embrace more joy and play in your life. There's no doubt that life often throws obstacles in our way. Whether it's the influence of negative people around us, difficult circumstances, or the internal dialogue that tells us we're not worthy of happiness or fun. But here's the truth. When I began to work on reconnecting with my inner child, I realized I had to first address these external and internal barriers that were preventing me from fully embracing play and joy. The first challenge I had to face was the negative people in my life. I think we all have those people who can drain us, whether it's through their cynicism, judgment, or constant criticism. I had to learn how to set boundaries with those who didn't support my growth or playfulness. I remember one friend who would always make fun of my attempts to have fun, like when I'd suggest going to an arcade or playing a silly game. They'd say things like, "You're too old for that," or "That's a waste of time." At first it hurt, but then I realized it wasn't about me. It was about them and their own discomfort with joy and play. I had to remind myself that I don't need permission to be playful or joyful from anyone else. The key was not to let their negativity dictate how I felt about myself or my choices. I learned to walk away from those situations, or if I had to interact with them, I'd focus on my own joy and block out their judgments. Then there were the limiting beliefs that held me back. Thoughts like, "I'm too busy to have fun," "I'm too old for play," or "I don't deserve to feel joy." These beliefs were deep-rooted and often felt like truth. But as I started to challenge them, I realized they weren't real. Play doesn't have an age limit, and joy doesn't require permission. I had to shift my mindset and remind myself that I'm worthy of fun, laughter, and freedom just as much as anyone else. One of the most helpful things I did was to recognize when those limiting beliefs were cropping up and replace them with empowering thoughts. For example, when I thought, "I don't have time to play," I'd ask myself, what would it feel like to prioritize joy for just 5 minutes today? Or when I thought, "I'm too old for that," I'd challenge it by saying, "Why can't I have fun at any age?" These small shifts helped me loosen the grip of those limiting beliefs and allowed space for more playfulness. It's also important to acknowledge that sometimes situations are beyond our control. We may be going through difficult times that make it hard to find joy. When that happens, it's okay to give ourselves permission to take a break from trying to force happiness and just be with what we're feeling. It's a balance of honoring our emotions and knowing that play and joy can be a part of our healing process when we're ready. I'm not saying it's always easy. There will be days when negative people, situations, or limiting beliefs try to pull us back down. But I've learned that by staying committed to the idea that joy and play are essential for our well-being, we can begin to push through those obstacles. We are worthy of happiness, and we can create space for play in our lives, no matter what others think or what old beliefs we've carried with us. This concludes this module. I want to thank you for taking the time to journey with me so far. I hope that you are getting the most out of this training and that the path to connecting with your inner child is close at hand. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. If you like this training and want to work with me one-on-one, you can visit my website at kathleenheals.com and sign up for a free 1-hour session with me. We can talk, discuss any issues you wish to address, and start you on your journey of healing. This session is completely free. Visit kathleenheals.com by clicking on the link in this video. I hope you take this opportunity to see what is possible. In the next module, we are going to be working on building lasting connections. Take a few moments now to center yourself before moving on. I will see you in the next section. Chapter 5, Building a Lasting Connection. Building a lasting connection with my inner child wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't just about one moment of realization or a single exercise. It was about making a consistent, intentional effort to nurture that part of myself. This chapter is about how I learned to deepen that connection, creating a foundation of trust, love, and understanding between myself and the inner child I had so long neglected. At first, it felt like reconnecting with my inner child was an occasional thing. I'd have moments of playfulness, perhaps a fleeting joy, when I'd indulge in a simple pleasure like coloring or dancing around my living room. But what I soon realized is that a true, lasting connection goes beyond those sporadic moments. It's about integrating that playful, joyful energy into the fabric of my daily life. I started by recognizing that the inner child isn't just a fragment of the past. It's a living, breathing part of me that needs attention, care, and love in the present. This part of me doesn't need to be fixed or healed entirely. It just needs to be acknowledged, accepted, and included in my everyday choices. The first step in building that connection was consistency. I began setting aside small moments throughout my day where I could engage with my inner child. It didn't have to be elaborate. Sometimes it was as simple as sitting down and letting myself color for 10 minutes, or taking a walk and letting my imagination run wild. Little by little, these moments grew. They became more frequent and more meaningful as I started to really listen to what my inner child wanted. The next piece of the puzzle was self-compassion. I had to acknowledge that I wasn't always going to get it right. There were days when I felt too tired, too overwhelmed, or too focused on other things to prioritize play. And that's okay. I had to release the pressure of perfection and embrace the fact that building this connection was a gradual process, not a race. There were moments when I'd be hard on myself for not doing enough, but I realized that these negative self-judgments were exactly what I needed to let go of. The inner child thrives in an environment of love, understanding, and patience, not guilt or shame. I also started to reflect on the ways I had been neglecting this connection in my adult life. I began asking myself, when was the last time I really laughed without care or concern? When did I last allow myself to dream freely without wondering if it was practical or realistic? Slowly, I made space for those moments again. I didn't force them, but I gave myself permission to experience joy without guilt or hesitation. One of the most powerful tools I've used in building a lasting connection with my inner child is affirmations. I started saying things like, I am worthy of joy, I trust my playful spirit, and I honor the child within me. These simple statements, repeated regularly, helped me to reinforce the idea that my inner child is just as valuable as any other part of me. It became a way of telling myself that it's okay to be playful, to laugh freely, and to experience life with a sense of wonder. Building this connection has transformed the way I approach life. It's not about escaping reality. It's about adding a new layer of richness and joy to it. When life feels heavy or overwhelming, I can lean into that playful energy and find comfort in the small, simple things. I've learned to celebrate moments of joy without guilt, to embrace creativity without fear of judgment, and to allow myself to be spontaneous without worrying about the consequences. In this chapter, I want to help you build your own lasting connection with your inner child. This is about making a commitment to yourself, not just for a week or a month, but for life. It's about carving out space for play and joy in your everyday world without waiting for the perfect moment or a dramatic shift. Through small actions, reflections, and mindset shifts, you can begin to foster a deeper, more authentic connection with the playful, creative spirit that is always inside you, waiting to be awakened. Daily practices for reconnecting. Reconnecting with my inner child has been a journey of small, consistent steps. It's not something that happens in a single moment, but rather in the small rituals I've created and the daily practices that keep me aligned with that joyful, playful part of myself. Over time, I've found that certain practices have really helped me strengthen my connection with my inner child. These aren't complicated or time-consuming, but they're powerful because they help me stay present, positive, and open to the healing process. I want to share some of these practices with you because I've found them to be incredibly helpful in nurturing the bond with my inner child. Gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling has been one of the most grounding practices for me. I used to focus so much on what I didn't have or what wasn't going right in my life. But when I started shifting my focus to what I was thankful for, something magical happened. I began to see life through a lens of appreciation, even for the small, seemingly insignificant things. Every morning, I take a few minutes to jot down 3 things I'm grateful for. These can be big things, like the love of my family or my health, but they can also be small, like the warmth of the sun on my face or a kind word from a stranger. Gratitude helps me reconnect with the present moment, and I've noticed it shifts my perspective on life, making it easier to invite joy into my day. When I include my inner child in my gratitude journaling, it's even more meaningful. I'll write about the simple pleasures I might have overlooked as an adult, like the feeling of fresh grass under my feet or the joy of watching a favorite cartoon. By expressing gratitude for these things, I honor my inner child's playful nature and remind myself that life doesn't need to be so serious. Affirmations for inner child healing. Affirmations have been a game changer for me. They're a simple but powerful tool to rewire old thought patterns and create new, empowering beliefs. For years, I held on to the belief that I wasn't worthy of joy, that being playful was childish or irresponsible. I had to gently challenge those thoughts and replace them with affirmations that reflected the truth. I deserve to have fun, I am worthy of love, and my inner child deserves attention and care. Every day, I repeat affirmations that speak directly to my inner child. Some of my favorites are: I am worthy of joy and happiness. It's safe for me to play and have fun. I honor the playful spirit within me. I release fear and embrace love and joy. I trust my inner child to guide me to happiness. These affirmations are reminders that the playful, carefree part of me isn't something I have to outgrow or leave behind. By speaking these affirmations daily, I create a space where my inner child feels safe to express herself. And over time, I've found that these affirmations don't just heal the past. They also help me create a future where joy, play, and healing are always within reach. Meditation practices. Meditation has been a transformative tool in reconnecting with my inner child. It allows me to quiet my mind, tune into my body, and open up to the emotions and memories that have been stored in my subconscious. In the past, I used to avoid stillness, afraid of what might come up, but now I understand that it's in that quiet space where the healing happens. One of my favorite meditation practices is a guided visualization, where I imagine myself meeting my inner child. I visualize walking into a peaceful, safe place, a park, a forest, or even a sunny beach. And there I find my younger self. I sit with her, listen to her, and offer her the love and support she needs. Sometimes we play together, or simply talk. The act of sitting with her, seeing her as real and present, has been incredibly healing. I also practice mindfulness throughout my day, paying attention to the little moments that remind me of the simple joy my inner child craves. Whether I'm enjoying a warm cup of tea, walking in nature, or simply daydreaming, I use these moments as mini meditations to reconnect with that playful energy. These daily practices are a simple way to stay connected with my inner child, and they've helped me create lasting change in my life. They've shifted my mindset, allowed me to heal old wounds, and helped me to embrace joy and playfulness in a way I never thought possible. I encourage you to try these practices or adapt them in ways that resonate with you. The key is consistency, kindness, and patience with yourself as you reconnect with the child within. This concludes this section. Take a moment to reflect on what has been spoken about and think about ways you can incorporate it into your connection efforts. Make sure to go into the workbook and use the tools provided to ensure that your connection is strong and stable. Before moving into the next section, take a few moments to yourself. In the next section, we will talk about how to create a safe space for you and your inner child. Creating a safe space, how to mentally and emotionally create a home for your inner child. Creating a safe space for my inner child has been one of the most healing and transformative aspects of my journey. It's not just about creating a physical space, but a mental and emotional one where my inner child feels loved, supported, and free to express themselves without fear or judgment. Over the years, I've learned that the way I speak to myself, the environments I choose, and the boundaries I set all play a role in this safe space. Emotional safety. Nurturing with compassion. One of the first steps I took in creating a home for my inner child was to begin with compassion. In the past, I often found myself criticizing or judging myself harshly, especially when I made mistakes or when I didn't feel like I was living up to my own expectations. My inner child, who just wanted love and acceptance, felt silenced by these negative voices. So, I started to make a conscious effort to replace that inner critic with kindness. Instead of telling myself I wasn't good enough, I began to speak to myself the way I would speak to a child who was struggling, gently, with understanding, and without shame. For example, if I made a mistake at work or in a personal relationship, I would pause and say, "It's okay. I'm still learning and growing. I'm proud of myself for trying." In moments like these, I visualize my younger self, maybe around 7 or 8 years old, and imagine holding her hand, reassuring her that everything will be okay, just as I would with a real child who is going through something tough. That simple practice, treating myself with tenderness, helps create a safe emotional environment where my inner child can feel safe to express herself, even in moments of discomfort. Mental safety. Setting boundaries. Another key piece in creating a home for my inner child is setting boundaries. I had to learn to protect myself from negativity, whether it came from toxic people, stressful situations, or my own self-doubt. Just like a parent would protect a child from harmful influences, I had to learn to stand up for myself and create mental boundaries that allowed my inner child to feel secure. For example, I've had to distance myself from people who didn't support my emotional growth or who dismissed my need for joy and play. It's difficult, but I realize that if I want to nurture my inner child, I need to prioritize relationships and environments that uplift me, not drain me. In work settings or social situations, if I feel my inner child being dismissed or invalidated, I've learned to step back and refocus my energy on people and places that offer warmth, respect, and encouragement. It's also about learning to say no when I need to. I've had to let go of the pressure to constantly be productive and do what others expect of me. My inner child needs time to play, rest, and recharge, just as much as she needs structure. Setting those boundaries has been an essential part of creating a space where she can thrive without feeling overwhelmed or pressured. Physical safety. Creating a physical environment that feels secure. While emotional and mental safety are crucial, I also realize that the physical space I inhabit plays a significant role in creating a safe home for my inner child. I began to pay attention to how my surroundings made me feel. Were they comforting? Did they inspire creativity and joy? Or did they feel sterile and draining? I started by making small changes to my home and workspace that felt nurturing. I added cozy elements, soft blankets, warm lighting, plants, and artwork that sparked joy. My living space became a sanctuary, a place where I could unwind and let my inner child feel at ease. I made sure that my space reflected who I am, embracing both playfulness and peace. In my bedroom, I kept a box of childhood treasures, old toys, photos, and handwritten letters that reminded me of my youth. This simple act of surrounding myself with things that reminded me of joy helped me create a physical safe haven for my inner child. Spiritual safety. Connecting with my core. Finally, I began to connect with my inner child on a spiritual level. It wasn't about religious beliefs, but rather about honoring the deep, unspoken wisdom within me. I learned to tune into my heart, trusting that my inner child always had something to teach me. Whether it was through meditation, nature walks, or just moments of quiet reflection, I found that tuning into this deeper space helped me create an internal sanctuary of peace and understanding. When I felt lost or unsure, I would close my eyes and picture my inner child standing beside me, her eyes full of wonder, her heart full of innocence. I'd take a deep breath, feeling that connection with her, and remember that the purest parts of me, my creativity, my joy, and my authenticity, were always within reach. This spiritual connection helped me feel grounded and safe, no matter what was going on around me. Creating a safe space for my inner child hasn't been an instant process. It's been a daily practice of nurturing, protecting, and embracing that part of myself. By focusing on emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual safety, I've cultivated a place within where my inner child feels loved, heard, and free to express herself fully. As you begin to create your own safe space, remember that it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's all about listening to your inner child and creating an environment that feels authentic and supportive. Whether it's through self-compassion, setting boundaries, making your environment more nurturing, or connecting spiritually, know that you have the power to create a home where your inner child can heal, grow, and flourish. Practical exercise. Build a physical reminder of your inner child. One of the most profound ways I've found to reconnect with my inner child is by creating a physical reminder that brings her back into my daily life. A tangible object, a photo, a drawing, or even a small toy can serve as a powerful symbol of my inner child's presence, her needs, and her joy. This object becomes more than just something to look at. It acts as a visual anchor, a constant reminder to honor the playful, innocent part of myself that often gets lost in the busyness of adulthood. When I started this exercise, I realized that having something physical helped me stay grounded and connected to my inner child in a way that was both emotional and real. It's easy to get caught up in life and forget about the parts of ourselves that we once cherished. Having a physical reminder can act as a tool to reawaken those parts, bringing us back to the pure joy, creativity, and freedom we once knew. Step 1. Choose your object. The first step in this exercise is to choose an object that represents your inner child in a way that feels authentic to you. This could be something directly from your childhood, like a favorite toy or a photo of you as a child. If you don't have a childhood item readily available, it could be something you pick now that symbolizes your inner child's essence, something that speaks to you. For example, when I first did this exercise, I found an old stuffed animal I used to carry around when I was young. It had been tucked away in a box for years, but the moment I found it, it brought back a flood of memories. The stuffed animal, worn and loved, reminded me of the simple comfort I once found in it. Holding it brought back a sense of safety and nostalgia. You could also choose something like a drawing or a piece of art you made as a child. It doesn't matter how simple it is, it's about the emotion and connection behind it. Maybe it's a picture of your favorite cartoon character, or even a creative, colorful doodle that made you smile when you were younger. Step 2. Reflect on the object's significance. Once you've selected your object, take a few moments to reflect on its significance. What memories does it stir up? How did you feel when you had it as a child? What does it remind you of about the person you were before life got complicated? For instance, as I reflected on my stuffed animal, I thought about how comforting it was to me during times when I felt lonely or scared. It wasn't just a toy, it was my companion, always there when I needed to feel safe. That realization deepened my understanding of the importance of comfort and safety for my inner child. By holding on to that object, I felt as if I was offering myself the same support I had once needed, but may have neglected over time. Step 3. Place the object in a visible space. Now that you've chosen your object and reflected on its meaning, place it in a space where you'll see it regularly. This could be on your desk, by your bed, or somewhere else in your home where you spend a lot of time. Having this physical reminder within your environment makes it easy to reconnect with your inner child whenever you need it. I placed my stuffed animal on a shelf near my desk, where I could see it while working or relaxing. Each time I looked at it, it felt like a little wink from my younger self, a soft nudge to remember the importance of play and self-compassion. That visual cue reminded me to be kinder to myself and more playful in my approach to life. Step 4. Create rituals around the object. As part of this exercise, I began to build little rituals around my physical reminder. For example, I'd spend a few moments each day looking at the object and allowing myself to remember moments from my childhood, whether they were happy, sad, or simply meaningful. Sometimes I'd hold it while I meditated, or I'd speak words of affirmation to my inner child while looking at the object. You can create your own rituals. Maybe you want to hold the object while journaling about your inner child's experiences, or perhaps you can sit with it when you need to calm yourself and reconnect with a sense of peace. These little moments of interaction help reinforce your emotional bond with your inner child and can offer comfort when you feel disconnected. Step 5. Journal your experiences. Once you've introduced your object into your daily life, it's helpful to take time to journal about your experience. What thoughts, feelings, or memories arise when you see the object? How does it make you feel to interact with it? I started journaling after each time I spent a moment with my stuffed animal, and I noticed that it helped me access feelings I had long buried. I'd write about times when I felt safe or loved as a child, and I'd also explore the more difficult moments, like when I felt neglected or misunderstood. It became a safe space for me to honor all aspects of my past and integrate those feelings with my current self. This practical exercise of building a physical reminder of your inner child can be an incredibly powerful tool for reconnecting with your authentic self. It helps bridge the gap between the adult you've become and the child you once were, giving you a way to integrate both parts of yourself and honor your full experience. Whether it's through a beloved toy, a photo, or a meaningful object you choose today, let it serve as a gentle reminder that your inner child is always with you, ready to be embraced and loved. This ends this module. I hope that you have found it informative and useful. Just like before, take the time to reflect on what you have learned and what you have experienced. Take the lesson and go back and start developing the safe space for you and your inner child. Also, go through the workbook, do the included exercises, and start your journey. In the final section of the course, we are going to help you with integrating your inner child into your life. We will take everything you have learned and help you put everything together. When you are ready to begin, jump into the final chapter. Chapter 6, Integrating the Inner Child into Your Life. As I've journeyed through the process of reconnecting with my inner child, I've realized that the true magic comes when I integrate this playful, innocent part of myself into my everyday life. It's one thing to acknowledge and heal the wounds of the past, and it's another to actively invite my inner child to come along with me on this adventure called life. This chapter is about learning how to blend the wisdom, joy, and creativity of my inner child into my adult world, bringing balance, harmony, and authenticity to every part of who I am. When I first began this process, I thought that reconnecting with my inner child meant going back to the way things were when I was a child. But as I've discovered, it's about bringing the spirit of my inner child into my present reality, into my decisions, my work, my relationships, and my self-care. It's about giving myself permission to have fun, to be playful, to be creative, and to dream big, no matter how old I am. Integrating my inner child into my life has been a game changer. It's helped me to be more present, more joyful, and more compassionate with myself. In this chapter, I'll share the practices, mindset shifts, and tools that have helped me make space for my inner child in my daily routine. Together, we'll explore how to carry this sense of wonder and possibility forward, allowing our inner child to grow with us, rather than leaving them behind. Let's dive in and start weaving our inner child into every part of our lives, because we are never too old to play, dream, and love. Making decisions with your inner child in mind. Making decisions has always been a challenge for me, especially when I felt torn between what I thought I should do and what I wanted to do. Over time, I realized that my inner child had a unique perspective to offer in these moments of decision-making. This part of me, playful, curious, and full of imagination, has the ability to guide me toward choices that align not only with my adult responsibilities, but also with my true joy and authenticity. When I began consciously making decisions with my inner child in mind, everything shifted. I started asking myself questions like, what would my younger self want right now? Or what would bring me joy and excitement today? It's not about ignoring logic or responsibility, but rather allowing my inner child's voice to be heard amidst all the practical concerns. When I tune into that voice, I make choices that feel aligned with who I truly am and not just with who the world expects me to be. For example, I remember struggling with a career decision not long ago. I had the option to take on a job that was prestigious and would have impressed others, but deep down, I could sense that it wasn't a good fit for me. I felt pressure to make the right choice, the one that made sense in the adult world. But when I paused to check in with my inner child, I realized that this choice didn't excite me. My inner child wanted something that sparked creativity, freedom, and joy, something that felt playful and full of possibility. Once I acknowledged my inner child's desires, I made the decision to pursue a path that felt more true to myself, even though it wasn't the most conventional choice. And the result? I felt more aligned, more energized, and more at peace with my decision than I had in a long time. This process isn't always easy, and it's important to recognize that making decisions with your inner child in mind doesn't mean rejecting responsibility. It's about finding balance, considering both the practical and the playful aspects of each choice. I've found that when I listen to my inner child, my decisions tend to feel more authentic, and the results are often more fulfilling than I ever expected. When you make decisions with your inner child in mind, you are allowing yourself to step into your truest, most joyful self. You're saying, I deserve to make choices that nourish me, that bring me happiness, and that allow me to live with authenticity and heart. It's a beautiful, empowering practice that reminds me to trust my intuition, honor my needs, and never lose touch with the childlike wonder that lives inside me. Balancing adult responsibilities with childlike joy. As an adult, it's easy to feel like I have to abandon my childlike joy in order to handle all of the responsibilities that come with life. There's work, bills, family, errands, and a million other things that seem to demand my attention. For a long time, I believed that in order to be responsible and successful, I had to put my playful side on the back burner. But over time, I've come to realize that balancing my adult responsibilities with childlike joy is not only possible, it's essential for my well-being. It starts with recognizing that being an adult doesn't mean I have to abandon all the things that made me feel alive as a child. Playfulness, curiosity, spontaneity. These aren't just traits of childhood. They're vital pieces of the puzzle for a fulfilling life, no matter how old I am. In fact, I've found that when I allow myself to embrace these aspects of my inner child, I actually become more focused, more productive, and more joyful in my adult life. For instance, when I'm tackling a big project or working through a stressful situation, I'll intentionally set aside time to do something playful, just for the sake of it. Whether it's taking a break to play a quick game, watching a silly video, or simply going for a walk and letting my mind wander, I find that these moments of childlike joy refresh me. They recharge my energy and remind me that life doesn't have to be all work and no play. I've also learned to integrate fun into my daily routine. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that there's no time for joy when there's so much to do. But by making room for little bursts of fun throughout my day, I find that I'm actually more efficient and less stressed. For example, instead of dreading cleaning the house, I'll put on my favorite music and turn it into a mini dance party. Doing laundry, I'll make a game out of sorting the clothes or see how quickly I can fold everything. These small acts of play turn mundane tasks into opportunities for enjoyment. Balancing adult responsibilities with childlike joy isn't about neglecting my responsibilities or abandoning maturity. It's about bringing the two together in a way that feels nourishing and balanced. It's about reminding myself that I don't have to sacrifice joy for productivity. When I let my inner child have a voice, I'm better able to approach the challenges of adulthood with a light heart, a creative mind, and a sense of ease. Ultimately, the key is remembering that life is short, and we deserve to experience joy every single day, even in the midst of the busiest times. By allowing my inner child to share in my adult experiences, I feel more connected to myself, more grounded, and more open to the magic of life. So I'm learning to weave that sense of wonder and delight into everything I do, because it's what keeps me feeling truly alive. As I reflect on this journey of reconnecting with my inner child, I realize just how much healing and growth have taken place. Every step, Every small effort to nurture that inner spark has brought me closer to the person I want to be. I've learned to listen to my inner child's voice, to forgive past wounds, and to embrace the joy and playfulness that I once thought were lost. Through the exercises, the affirmations, and the daily practices, I've witnessed my own transformation. It's a powerful reminder that healing isn't about being perfect or following a set of rules. It's about showing up, being gentle with myself, and allowing the space to grow. Today, I celebrate that progress. I celebrate the moments when I felt lighter, when I allowed myself to play, to laugh, and to feel joy. I celebrate the courage to look at the past, to face the pain, and to offer it compassion and forgiveness. And I celebrate the strength it takes to keep moving forward, even when life gets complicated. I recognize that this isn't the end of the journey, but a beautiful beginning. The connection I've built with my inner child is a lifelong relationship that will continue to evolve and grow. I now know that my inner child is not just a part of my past, but an essential, vibrant part of my present and future. So today, I honor the progress I've made, and I'm excited for what's to come. The healing, the joy, the creativity, and the playful energy, it's all part of who I am. And from here on out, I'll continue to nurture it with love and care. Dear friend, as you reach the end of this journey, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to you. You've committed to reconnecting with your inner child, and that is no small task. It takes courage, patience, and a willingness to embrace both the joyful and painful parts of your past. And you've done it. The exercises, reflections, and affirmations in this book have been tools to help you heal, play, and nurture the beautiful, authentic spirit within you. Now that you've begun the process of healing, I encourage you to continue this work. Reconnecting with your inner child is not something you do once and then forget about. It is an ongoing practice, something you must nurture every day, with the same love and attention you would offer any cherished relationship. Remember, your inner child is always with you. They are the playful, loving, and creative essence that lives within your heart. As you move forward, continue to create space for joy, honor their needs, and allow yourself to be playful and spontaneous. Don't be afraid to lean into the emotions and experiences you've uncovered. Embrace them with love and compassion. Most importantly, know that your inner child is worthy of care, understanding, and unconditional love. Every step you take toward healing is a step toward a more fulfilled, authentic life. Be patient with yourself and celebrate the small victories along the way. Thank you for trusting this process and for allowing yourself to reconnect with the parts of you that have always been there, waiting to be heard and loved. Keep showing up for yourself and let your inner child guide you to a future full of joy, creativity, and healing. Your journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. Stay open, stay curious, and continue to nurture the beautiful bond you've built with your inner child. You have everything you need to thrive. Take a moment and schedule your free healing session with Kathleen. Visit www.kathleenheals.com and sign up. It is free, and you can schedule the best time for you. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. We are going to be producing additional courses and audiobooks that you don't want to miss. Leave a comment as well, tell us what you think, and give suggestions for future lessons. Until we meet again, I send you love and happiness.